Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2021 Ford F-250, we're going to be showing you how to install the EcoHitch Front Trailer Hitch Receiver. But before we do that, why don't we check it out and make sure that this is going to be something that's going to work for you. So when it comes to putting a front hitch on your truck, there's a lot of different things people use them for. Probably some of the most popular things is using them for a snowplow, or being able to mount up a winch on the front of your truck. Or what's kind of getting more popular nowadays is people using them for accessories up here. So a lot of people are pulling around big campers and things like that, and say they want to haul some extra things and put a cargo carrier up here, or carry around some bikes for the family. You can put a bike rack up here. So there's a lot of different things you can use it for. You could even push some trailers around with it. If you got maybe a lot or something and a bunch of trailers out there, you can push them around with this, so you can put a ball mount in there and park your trailers around. So having a hitch up here is definitely going to kind of open up your opportunities on what you can use your truck for. When it comes to what hitch is going to work best for your particular situation, I think hands down the EcoHitch is probably going to be the best option for you compared to some of the other ones available. And I say that because where the hitch is going to sit. This one sits right here and is nice and high off the ground and gives us really good clearance. So the end of the receiver tube is just behind the metal part of our bumper here. And that's comparing it to a lot of the other hitches that sit down here way at the bottom. So not only is it really close to the ground, but it's so far back, it's going to take away a lot of your clearance. You're going to have 6, 7, 8 inches worth of bumpers sticking out in front of that hitch, so it can really kind of limit your use on what you can do with it. And not to mention, I think this one looks the best too, flat out. The other ones, you're gonna have a big hitch sticking out right here that you're always gonna see. This one kind of blends in, and they even give you a license plate holder too. So if your state requires you to have a front plate, you can bolt your plate right to this. This slides in. They even give you a pin and clip so you can lock that in, and you're not even going to be able to see the hitch. It looks like a factory deal back there. So really nice touch, and it's just as easy if you're ready to use it. You pull this out and you have full access to it there. The hitch is going to have a 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube opening, so really common size. A lot of different things will work with it. At the end there, we're going to have a reinforced collar for some extra support. And honestly, I think it looks good too. It kind of matches and kind of flows with everything we got going on here inside of the bumper. Like I said before, it is going to come with the pin and clip, and that is going to be 5/8 in diameter. So this hitch is going to have some really good weight capacities. As far as the maximum gross tongue weight rating goes, that's going to be 1,000 pounds. And that's going to be the amount of weight that's pushing down on the hitch. So pretty high number. Should be able to use all different type of accessories, winches, snow plows, and so on. As far as the maximum gross trailer weight rating, as well as the maximum line pull rating, those numbers are going to be 10,000 pounds. And that's going to be the amount of weight that is pulling on the hitch. So again, pretty high number. And you'll be able to use those winches and move those trailers around with some confidence. Let's just go ahead and grab a couple of measurements. That way, if you need them, you got them, help you figure out what accessories will work and everything else. As far as the ground clearance goes, I think we'll be in pretty good shape regardless on what you're trying to do. But in our case, it looks like from the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening is going to be about 25 3/4 of an inch. Keep in mind too, that measurement can vary depending on if you got a lift kit or bigger tires, something like that. This is probably as low as it goes. Our truck is a work truck package with factory everything, so just to kind of give you a reference. And if you go from the center of the hitch pin hole here to the edge of our bumper, that's going to be right at about 4 inches. So that's the amount of clearance that you're going to have if you want to mount up a winch or use a folding type accessory, whatever the case may be. I do want to bring up fitment. It seems like a lot of people are wondering about that. And this is going to fit the trucks that have gas motors like ours does today, as well as the diesel engine. So regardless on what engine package you got, you're going to be covered. The diesel motors do require you to relocate. I believe it's an oil cooler in the front, but they give you some extra brackets and things like that, and you know, to really help make that easy and make room for the hitch. There is one exception, dualies, trucks that have dual rear wheels. It sounds like the hitch does not fit those trucks, and it even sounds like some people have tried to make them work type thing and haven't had any success. So if that's your case, definitely look into a different hitch that is you know, rated to work with those dually type trucks. But other than that, at the end of the day, you know, if it were me, this is probably the best option, at least in my opinion, as far as, you know, how it's going to look on your truck, and just that clearance and the overall usability. It's probably going to be your best bet. Now, as far as the installation goes, I'm not going to lie, it really wasn't too bad. The instructions weren't super clear, so you had to kind of interpret them along the way. But really, pull the bumper off and everything bolted up really good. Probably one of the more challenging parts, at least to try to figure out, is just where to trim around here. But I'll show you how I did it, and it turned out pretty good, I think. So why don't we go ahead, pull into the garage, and put it on together now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here at the front of our truck, and what we need to do is remove our front bumper. That way we can get the front hitch installed. So first thing we're going to do is actually just remove our license plate holder. So if you look on the bottom side of it, you can see these plastic tabs that kind of shoot underneath. We're going to come on this side and get them released. If you look there, there's our tabs, and you can kind of push on the outside of the plate frame and then push on them tabs. You're able to kind of pull them out like that. So once those are free, you can just lift up on the plate frame and set it off to the side. With the plate out of the way, we can remove some fasteners along this front opening. So in our case, we're going to have 5 on the bottom, and I think 5 on the top as well. And what you're going to do, if you have a trim panel tool, this works pretty good. Just pry underneath the head of the fastener. If you don't have a trim tool, you can always make do with the flathead screwdriver. But we're just going to continue to work all these out on the bottom and top. These ones on the top are a little bit different. You're going to kind of pry the head out first, and then come back under the base and pull it out. So what we can do now is this center piece here, kind of just pull out on this, and I feel like it should kind of pop free, which it did. So we'll get this removed and set it off to the side. So now if you go inside of our wheel well and look right here in this area, we're going to have a couple of bolts, and we need to pull them out. And from this point on, anything we do to one side of the vehicle, we're going to do to the other side, because it'll be set up the same way. But we'll go ahead and grab a 15mm socket and get these removed. Now if you look right here above our bumper and below our grill, we're going to have a plastic push pin, and we need to pull that out. They're kind of in a goofy spot, so they're pretty tight. Not the easiest ones to remove, but trim tool definitely helps in this case. That pulled out of the way though. Now we can remove some bumper bolts, and you definitely want to have a friend helping you with this. So take off one side, have your buddy hold it, and then come over here and take these off. So 18mm socket. We're gonna have 4 of them. And this should be the last bolt holding this bumper on, so. Feels like it came loose. So go ahead and kind of pull out on it. So with all of them released, now you can take our bumper off and set it off to the side so we're safe. On each one of our frame rails, we're gonna have these shovel looking deals here. It's a piece of metal bracket, and we need to get those off and out of the way. So on each side, they're held in place with 2 18mm nuts. Get those pulled off. Do the same thing over on the other side here. And get these out of the way. So now on the passenger side here, if you have a gasoline engine like we do today, we're gonna have these lines we need to pop off. If you have a diesel engine, refer to your instructions. You'll have some type of cooler here you'll have to relocate. But like I said, you can follow instructions, it'll tell you how to do it. But that said, we're just gonna release this clip from the frame, so you can take a flathead screwdriver, just kind of pry out on it, and we'll just leave it like that for the time being. And then if we go over to our driver's side, we're gonna have an electrical connector there. And we need to do the same thing. So trim tool or flathead, pop that on out and let it hang for now. So now we can come back to our front bumper, filleted on the front side. We're gonna have some bolts here in the center we need to pull out. So 2 up top, 4 on the bottom. I'm using an 8mm socket to get those all out. Then we can grab our centerpiece and get it removed. Now we can get some of our hardware ready. What you're gonna do is take the longer 2-inch bolt, star washer, flat washer, and the spacer block, and this hole right there in the bottom of the frame. You're gonna take that bolt and drop it down through. Now at the next set of hands, you can take our hitch, raise it into position. This hole in the hitch is gonna line up with our bolt there. So we'll push it on up. So once it's up through there, you can take a flat washer, split lock washer, and a hex nut, and we want to get each one started hand tight. We are going to have some more hardware we need to get going. So if you look kind of inside this tube area, we're going to have 2 holes there, and you're going to take your bolts. So these bolts with the flat washer, and run them through like this, and they'll come out more or less inside of our frame rail where we can get the rest of our hardware on the back of them. So here's where our bolts come through. There's a big gap here, and there's no way I'm going to be able to get all our hardware started. So what I think I'm going to do is just take a nut, put it on one of the bolts, and then just tighten it down, and hopefully that'll kind of draw everything together, which it did. So now that we have that extra length there, we'll take flat washer on the other bolt, split lock washer, and a nut. And what I'll do is kind of snug this one down. And take this nut back off. That'll hold the hitch in place and allow us to take a flat washer, split lock washer, and put the nut back on this side. Once you have all the side bolts tight, you want to make sure to come back and tighten up the bolts here in the bottom. Now you want to make sure and come back with a torque wrench and tighten down all the hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. If you don't have a torque wrench, you can grab one here at etrailer, or a lot of times go to your local auto parts stores and they'll have one there available to rent. So that electrical connector that we loosened up earlier, I just used a zip tie around the frame and just kind of secured it here to the inside of our frame. And then these bolts, I just put back in place. You know, that way if you ever do need to use our tow hooks, we just get a little bit of extra strength. So these are the factory ones that originally came out. Slide it through, bolt them back down. Now we come back to that center piece we removed and mark it out and get it cut. There's a diagram and the instructions you can reference. I'm just cutting the center piece out. These are all set up a little bit different, it seems like, every other year. So I'm just using my best judgment here, but I'm gonna use a Dremel tool to cut this out. You could probably use some other type of saw or whatever you have laying around the house as well. With that piece cut out, we're gonna have to come back and cut this part as well. That way it'll clear the hitch. So again, just using my better judgment and trying to line things up, mark this out, and we'll get it trimmed out. With that center piece trimmed out, you can simply reinstall it the opposite way that we removed it from our front bumper here. So before we put our bumper on now, I just want to give you kind of a tip here. Hopefully this will work. What I've done is just use some packing tape and took these nut plates and lined them up in their original position and just kind of taped them up there. That way when we hold our bumper up, these will be in place and it should make it easier to get our hardware started. So now with the next set of hands, we'll take our bumper and line it back up. Try to work it through. Getting it back in the original position. We'll take our factory hardware and get them started. So once you have all of the hardware in place and tight, do your best to center it and line everything up. That can be quite difficult, you know, to get perfect. It's just so heavy, the bumper, but you know, we can get it close and almost spot on. So once you're happy with it, you can tighten the bolts down. With these, I like to kind of snug it and kind of do an X pattern and hit it a couple times, and that really helps draw everything in evenly. Once everything's snug, don't forget to come back with your torque wrench and tighten the bolts down to the amount specified in the instructions. Once you have all your bumper bolts torqued down, take this plastic trim piece that we removed and pop this back in. Get it seated for the most part all the way around. And once we have it where it needs to be, we'll come back and reinstall our push pin fasteners. Not really sure what's hanging this corner up here. Maybe we'll pull it out and kind of give it another go. So the holes right here below and above the hitch, the bottom one, we'll be able to get that one back in, but the top one I tried for a while and it's just too tight. There's really no room at all to get this thing back in there. So that's fine, nothing's gonna be hurt from it. If you can get it in, that's awesome. If not, you know, not the end of the world. Now we could take our license plate holder that comes with it and set up our plate. So I did 3 out of the 4 screws. But what you're gonna do is take these hex head screws, flat washer, run that through. Backside, another flat washer, a nylon lock nut. If I can get it started. Get that going. I'm just gonna hold the nut by hand with an 11mm socket. Come back with our Allen key and tighten it down. And now it's ready to be placed inside of the hitch. Get that in there. It does come with a pin and clip too, so you can line that up and finish it off here. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the EcoHitch Front Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2021 Ford F-250.